Today we're going to talk about gender equality and we're going to focus on gender discrimination in the workplace. What is gender discrimination? Gender discrimination can be defined as an act of treating differently the opposite sex simply because he or she belongs to that sex. It is a tradition that when gender discrimination is addressed, it means the complete exclusion of females from the employment or as the exclusion of females from white collar jobs. Differential treatments occur when individuals are treated unequally because of their sex or race. In many corporations today, you will see that there is only a certain group that will be considered for higher positions and will be considered to be the face of the company. And then there's the out group that will have a cap on the highest title they can obtain or the amount of money that can be made. Not all discrimination is upfront, but it can be expressed by the job's qualifications, whether it's obtaining a certain level of degrees or simply stating that the company has a certain look for certain roles. So, understanding the concept of gender equality in the workplace, we must view the job market and take a look at the roles that women are provided with. Gender inequality can be described as a discriminative perception and behavior against women based on their gender. If we were to look at the pay rate back in, let's say, the 50s, all the way up to 2017, we would see that, yeah, although there's been a change, it hasn't been that big of a change. In the United States, many of the best paying occupations are in male dominant industries. But when comparing the pay rates between men and women on the Bureau of Labor Statistics current population survey, women made less than men in median weekly earnings in every male dominated occupation in 2017. These studies prove that the female population is underrepresented in large corporations. Irene Padovic did a study that showed that the women's share of the labor force increased by 8.7% between 1977 and 1988, but their share of good jobs at good pay was disproportionately in the white collar arena. One study examining United States Census research from 1950 to 2000 showed that as large numbers of women entered male dominant fields, the overall pay rate declined. However, according to the 2017 statistics by the U.S. Department of Labor, for every dollar a man makes, surprisingly, a woman earns only 81 cents for the same job. Discrimination and psychological issues are at play, and we must consider the psychological issues that are occurring when discrimination is in the workplace. People who are exposed to gender discrimination at work will experience psychological problems such as stress, which could lower the productivity of their work. The chronic and often ambiguous nature of discrimination makes it a stressor that is difficult to cope with, and victims show a range of psychological and physical disturbances. So, not only is the employee stressed out based upon not being considered for a position or maybe their pay raise, but now physically and psychologically, they're distressed and they're being stressed out, and now it is showing in their work performance. The social identity theory proposes that self esteem is influenced by the fate of social groups that we identify ourselves with. Discrimination may be linked to self esteem in a context of naturally occurring in groups and out groups. especially when the outgroups form a naturally occurring and salient threat to the self concept. Abrams and Hogg identify self esteem as the exient assumed primary motivating force of intergroup discrimination. So, why is there gender inequality in the workplace? Well, if we look at how the American society views women or even moms, you see that typically women were to be classified as stay at home moms. So they can always be there for their kids. They could be the master of the house by cleaning and cooking, doing all different types of work, and then making sure that they keep up with their daily routine, all before hubby came home to bring in the bacon. But why does this inequality happen? Well, American society was conditioned with the notion that women was the homemaker. When it comes to family needs, the woman is mainly the one that works less hours taking care of their families. Then there's the stereotype that more women are hired in the healthcare or childcare field as they are seen as nurturers. Discrimination itself occurs because some women are only hired if they look a certain way or are willing to compromise their assets when it comes to the corporate industry. So, what are some of the social problems? Gender relations are unequal relations with respect to power, privilege, and poverty. Gender is a social problem when inequities continue to persist in a society that espouses gender equality. So, how do we improve gender equality? Women and men should be paid and treated with the same standards on the job as well as off the job. Although much progress has been made since the Industrial Revolution and the Civil Rights era, some things remain unchanged. Focusing on differences in earnings, Blay and Kahn showed that women's relative position considerably improved, especially during the 1980s, when men experienced a real decline in earnings, while female real wages grew very rapidly. However, in America, we continue to wrestle with various forms of ethnic and gender discrimination, with potentially devastating consequences for our society and institutions. Not to mention, they love to say that it's based on qualifications when it comes to getting accepted for a job or a position. However, when we look at the qualification rate, women are outperforming men in math, writing, and reading in primary schools. 58% of university graduates are females. We can say that faculties such as computer science and engineering remain predominantly male. However, previous studies have shown that gender blind applications tend to result in more women hired regardless of how high or low achieving they are. Women are also underrepresented in managerial positions, in part due to biasness held against them by men in power. But now it's time to deconstruct these gender issues we're having. Players argued that due to the feminist movement and changes in the workplace, the interest in the politics that define male and female relations has been escalated in recent years. Women in male dominant domains have drawn public attention. Individuals express interest in meaning of womanhood and manhood, while sociologists argue that neither is biologically constructed. It is socially and culturally constructed. Masculinity is based on the attributions of a typical male, while femininity exemplifies the cultural characteristics that define the blueprint for female. Although much progress has been made, we in America need to do better